I should not be having to make a video on this game, man. But here we are. Boston College just went into Tallahassee and beat the living shit out of Florida State. I mean, I talked about it 2 weeks ago. No, last week. It was last week about the Georgia Tech's offensive line and their how they dominated Florida State's like really good defensive line or supposed to be really good defensive line, and how I was hyping up Georgia Tech's offensive line the whole time. Now Georgia Tech's offensive line, great, but I think it was way more Florida's defensive line. They got dominated for the second straight game, somehow even worse than last week. 200, 270 rushing yards. 270 rushing yards given up in this game from Florida State. That's the strength of your team, man. And they have been dominated, or the strength of your team defensively. No, fuck it. The strength of your team. The best part about Florida State's team was their defensive line going into this year. And they have spent 2 days, and they have given up 460 rushing yards. That's an insane number. And now, let's talk about BC, then we'll talk about Florida State. BC, bravo. They come into this season, new head coach in Bill O'Brien, and he comes in late, so they can't even get any transfers in. Nobody transfers out. They all buy into it, and they come into here with a dog of a schedule. They're going to 10, the number 10 team in the country, and then the next week go to the number 11 team in the country because they're facing Mizzou next week. And then they come into Tallahassee, beat the shit out of Florida State. Now that Mizzou game is kind of interesting. Maybe Florida State's not good. Let's just admit this. Florida State's not good. This is not. They're going to be unranked 12 p.m. tomorrow whenever the poll comes out tomorrow. I'd assume it'll be 12 p.m. tomorrow. They'll be unranked. But that Mizzou game kind of becomes a sneaky good game. I don't think Boston College wins that game because I don't think Mizzou's a bad team like Florida State is, but maybe not a bad team. Yeah, no, they deserve the bad team at this point. But I mean, bravo to Boston College. That's all I have to say. But it's not about, I guess it is about Boston College, but the narrative is going to be all around Florida State. And how there was a topic of like, oh, they're 0-1, they can still make the playoffs. They're 0-1 in conference, so they could still win the ACC. Now they're 0-2 in conference. They had 2 games. Now the schedulers, did nasty work with Florida State, and I'm kind of realizing they have to go to Dublin in week 0, and then have to go and play Boston College on a Monday night. There's not any favors, and it's like GT and Boston College. Well, anything can happen in an overseas game. They're usually weird, and then you have a completely rested of Boston College team who had an extra week to prepare. I know bye weeks exist, and everybody has an extra week to prepare for some games, but they have no wear and tear or anything. But it's not to blame. That's not even close to what the blame is. Bad. I can't say anything else but bad. So, and you can look at their schedule. This was the easy stretch of their schedule too. Boston College and Georgia Tech were the wins. The hard part of their schedule is when they have to go to Miami, when they have to host Clemson in, I think that's their 6th game of the year. Yeah, I think they host Clemson in 5 weeks or something because they're on bye next week. Hopefully, this bye week's going to be tough. If you're Florida State, you are going to have 2 weeks of soul searching, and they're not gonna like what they find over those 2 weeks. They have 2 weeks. I don't know who the hell they're playing next week or in 2 weeks. I think it's an FCS school. Hopefully, they can just have a get right game. But yeah, and I was always saying they have Clemson in Game 6. Then they have Miami a few weeks later, and then they go to Notre Dame. That's not any favors. Clemson played bad and in their last game, but they played Georgia, so I really don't know how good Clemson is, really. But that looks like 3 losses on their schedule. If they end up going 7-5, that's nothing. That's not the playoffs. That's nothing. You're in a welcome to the what bowl? Duke's Mayo Bowl. Welcome to that. That's the reality for Florida State right now. They go from ACC favorites, favorite to make the playoffs. Odds-wise, I don't think they were actually like odds-on favorites, but the favorites in the ACC, picked by most to make the college football playoffs, and now they're downgraded to the Duke's Mayo Bowl or whatever they're gonna play in. Now, they still have the talent. They could still bounce back, but to even sniff the playoffs, they're going to have to win out. They can win out and still, like, Miami can win undefeated or be a one-loss team because they would have to lose that game. And then Clemson can be a one-loss team in the ACC, and those teams are in the ACC championship. Florida State, 10-2, may just not be in the playoffs still. That's a realistic possibility that Florida State's already the first team eliminated from the college football playoffs. That's a real possibility. But we'll see. I mean, it's crazy. Going from bitching about the playoffs last year to losing to Georgia Tech and Boston College. How the mighty have fallen in a few months. Thank you all for watching. Discourse never coming. See ya.